Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've talked about an Arknights event's graphic design, and to be honest, during most of this event's runtime, I hadn't really looked more into the overall design of the event. Turns out, when you take a lot of classes, you tend not to have as much time to do other things in life. But there are some things with I Portatori dei Velluti's design that are really interesting and again demonstrates Arknights' ability to tap into a multitude of cultural influences from real life to create diverse and distinct designs apart from its other gacha game peers. So without further ado, let's take a look at the visual design of I Portatori dei Velluti. One of the most eye-catching aspects of this event are the graphic design's colors. The event features a primary palette comprising of three main colors: purple, red, and gold. Purple is featured within most of the UI elements and design, serving as the primary color, used as the backdrop for UI elements and also the background's color. Red is mostly used as an accent color within the game design, notably utilized to provide a drop shadow effect for the text to give an impression of the text being 3D. Though notably in some of the promotional material outside of the game itself, red is also used as the primary color. Gold is found within the design in three different tones: a lighter, medium, and darker tone. The lightest tone is usually reserved for text, providing the most contrast with other colors used within the UI, while the medium and darker tones are reserved for other UI elements. These three colors, along with their frequent appearance, not just within graphic design, but also the artwork of the event, provide for a pretty complementary color palette of the event. Recently, while I've been doing my own graphic design projects, I found this one color guide on a company's branding guideline page, and I was inspired by how they organized the colors. So I made my own small little palette based off of what they provided on their company guideline for easy color selection for my projects, and I just take the color palette and move it off to the side of my artboards in Illustrator. So here's the colors that I chose to roughly match the colors of this event, and the palette, if you want to utilize it, is available down in the description. Now, of course, these three colors are not the only ones to make up the colors used within the event. When you're first scrolling through the event stages, you see a shade of blue in addition to the red for the different event sections. Then when you move on to the fourth, oh my god! The fourth section is a bold departure from the previous sections. You have yellows, greens, pinks, cyan, oh my! Moving on to the EX and Decadenza stages, we see even more bold colors being used. It's quite the shift from the relatively tame complementary color palette of the original three colors. Now, Arknights is not a stranger to bold, bright colors. While the majority of events typically trend towards more darker tones of colors, the main exception to this are the summer events. Here we see a lot of brighter color palettes utilized, reflective of the brightness of summer and providing a distinct contrast from the other events within Arknights. Yet, the bright bold colors in the case of I Portatori dei Velluti feel a bit off. It feels like the colors within the design are clashing. They don't really feel complementary at all. One might say that they're too bold, perhaps even obnoxious. But this is where the major clue of the main style the event draws upon for inspiration clicked for me, and in particular, the final section of the normal stages provided it. Pop art is an art movement stemming from the mid-20th century, emerging from the United Kingdom and the United States. The movement represented a sort of counterculture towards traditional fine art, where artworks of the movement included aspects of popular culture, from mass media to reflect the realities of everyday life. It took what was considered mundane, banal, or even kitsch, and turned them into something to rival the Van Goghs or Monets. The first thing that came to mind when I saw the four cars in the bold colors is arguably the most famous work that has come to define the pop art movement: Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe. The sharp bold colors are created from a publicity photograph of the 1953 film Niagara, demonstrating one of the techniques utilized within pop art that is so commonly featured within graphic design. Compositing is where you combine visual elements from separate sources into a single image. A notable example of compositing is with collages, something that is reflected in many pop art works that utilize media from sources such as photos, magazines, and advertisements. One of the inherent results of compositing is contrast between the visuals, especially when sourcing the composited visuals from different mediums. You can see examples of these in many earlier Swiss graphic design works. When it comes to I Portatori dei Velluti, you can see compositing utilized throughout the menus. Within the normal stages, the simplified polygon silhouettes of the hands, wolves, and cars are contrasted by the much detailed buildings in Part 1. In the EX stages, the text, sparkles, and the spirals surround the landship that is right in the middle. And the stylized icons within the puzzle pieces in the Decadenza sit above a backdrop of even more detailed buildings. What makes these examples of compositing even more reflective of the style of pop art, rather than just an image with a backdrop, is how these images are often modified with other effects, usually with color. With the normal stages, the buildings are made to be completely black, matching the aesthetics of the other silhouettes in the rest of the menu. The landship in the EX stages and the buildings in the Decadenza are the opposite. They are recolored from their original appearance to provide bold, expressive visuals. Additionally, there's another effect applied to both of these examples that reflect another notable aspect of pop art. Let's talk about dots. Bendy Dots is a printing technique that is able to print shades of gray or different colors through utilizing small dots that are adjusted with their spacing to achieve the illusion of the desired gray or color. Unlike one of the other poster children of much of Arknights' graphic design, halftone dots, Bendy dots are equally sized. Print techniques are honestly a really cool part of graphic design and is kind of what everyone forgets about why we still need graphic designers in the first place, but we'll leave that topic for some time else. The relation between Bendy dots and pop art is with American comics. These comics extensively used Bendy dots within their printing to create their pages of different colors, and given their immense popularity within the public at the time, it's no surprise that the influence of comics, and thus the technique of Bendy dots, would be displayed within pop art works, such as those by Roy Lichtenstein. Within I Portatori dei Velluti, we see Bendy dots utilized within elements such as the 4 cars in Part 4 of the main stages and the title text in the EX stages. One neat thing about how they applied these effects is that even though Bendy dots are technically equal-sized, there is still variation within them due to the inconsistency from physical printing. Adding this added a bit of texture to the design that makes it feel a bit more natural. Once again, Arknights demonstrates how it is versatile and how it's able to draw upon influence from many parts of art and design history to create unique and immersive experiences within its game. That's also not even mentioning the UX of Arknights events, which I just want to quickly highlight the example of the moving graphical elements within this event. When the player moves the stage, it's also moving all of the little small graphical elements, and I think that's just a pretty neat thing. And to be honest, UX deserves similar appreciation as the art, graphic design, and music of the game. But usually, the graphic design is meant to complement not just the setting of the event, but also the themes. And that's been something I've been thinking about a little bit, and I would love to hear what others have to say down in the comments below. But I want to perhaps throw out my own interpretation based on my own limited understanding of the story of Il Portatori dei Velluti and impressions from the other promotional material. As mentioned before, the pop art movement was deeply associated with the pop culture of the period and was viewed as a bit of a rebellion against the established traditional art. One point that is discussed when talking about pop art's impact on society was how it highlighted what was considered mundane and elevated it to something more. Give the American public a photo of the most famous movie star at the time, and no one bats an eye. But make her skin pink, and then also make her hair bright yellow, and now people start talking. Seems fitting for a rebellious wolf looking to make a spectacle.